Good morning. Wow. That's a little hot. Good morning and welcome to the 41st CALLERLAB convention in Reno, Sparks, Nevada. Today is, they didn't fill in the date there. Today is Tuesday, the April the 15th. Hope you got your taxes in. And this is, sit down, Scott. And this is the tech marketing panel. I'm Lawrence Johnstone, the moderator. Your panelists today are Mike Hogan from Omaha, Nebraska, and Chris Jensen from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I know absolutely nothing about tech marketing. Luckily, they do. Mike is actually a marketing person. Chris has been on this panel before in the past, and they have a lot of good information for you. Both of them have handouts, and if you did not receive a handout when you came in, be sure you come up and pick one up before you leave at the end of the session. The session is being recorded, so any questions must go on the recording. We do have a wireless mic that I'm using right now. If anybody in the question and answer portion has a question, raise your hand. I'll see that the mic gets to you. To lead off, here's Mike Hogan.
Good morning. Thank you for coming to this morning at 9 o'clock. I'll give you, well, first of all, you should know that I was sort of a last-minute add-on to this. The home office was kind of fishing around, and they said, well, who do we know that knows something about tech marketing? And I know a lot about marketing because of what I do for a living. But the technical side, a lot of the internet stuff is not, I know enough to be a little bit dangerous, but when you get into the real nitty-gritty about some of it, that's when we're really going to lean on Chris over here. Sorry, Chris, nothing like setting the bar for you. So real quick, my background, I've been since 1991, I've worked in media, primarily terrestrial radio. Okay, outbound radio signal. Listen to it in your car, that kind of thing. So the easy version is I'm an advertising sales guy, and I go around and I talk to businesses every day and try and get them to use the radio to help grow their business. Well, of course, if you're in any of those businesses, you have to know a lot more than that. Because walking up and going, "Hey, Chris, you want to buy some spots?"
Send spots?
That doesn't work. So you end up learning a lot about all kinds of different forms of marketing, and you end up being a consultant as opposed. And then for a period of time, I left radio and I managed a full-service advertising agency. So as general manager, of course, I got to manage a lot of people and systems and that kind of stuff. But I didn't do the digital marketing for our clients. We had people that we hired that had that expertise. But wow, talk about opening my eyes and learning so much more about social media, website technology, paid search, SEO, SEM, all of these things that were just terms that were out there that I'd heard of. I really had to dig in and learn a lot more of those, because at the end of the day, if we put a plan together for a client and it wasn't working, they didn't call my digital marketing guy. They'd call me. And so I had to learn stuff pretty quickly. So what I really want to impress on you is, I'm probably going to get this wrong, and for the tape I'll try and give you some numbers. At a lot of my dances, I have the option from the stage then to talk to people. So I'm guessing the numbers are going to be a little higher than what I get at the dances, but I'll share those numbers with. How many of you have one of these? These, but for the tape, is a cell phone, and specifically in my case, it's a smartphone. I'm not asking if you have an i5. How many of you have a cell phone? Right? Everybody's got a cell phone. Or how many have a smartphone? Okay, smaller percentage, but the bulk of you still have some form of a smartphone, right? All right. So, how many of you do text messaging? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Do you know yet how many we have in the room? I counted 26. 12 out of 26 do text messaging. That's not It's a little smaller percentage than you might have thought. How many of you are on Facebook? Raise your hand high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, interestingly, we have more people on Facebook than we have doing text messaging. Why is that? And is that an odd? Do you think that's an odd number? I thought it was an odd number, but that's what I'm seeing at dances. That a small percentage do text messaging, a much bigger number do Facebook. Easier to use? Well, I kind of asked around, and what I got for the most part was it's a great way for grandma to keep up with the grandkids. That's what I got. Okay, and that's what social media is all about. What's my family up to? What are my friends up to? All of that kind of stuff. So as I got to digging in and I was working with websites and doing all that kind of stuff, there was a study that Google put out, and we dug in and researched it and really paid a lot of attention. Now, my ad agency primarily dealt with car dealers. So some of the background knowledge that I have is car dealer oriented, but I've gone online and I've done a lot of research to back it up with other industries. So what I want to really impress on you is we have to get dancers and callers to break, typically they're the last generation that's getting involved in this kind of new system to reach out and communicate with people. I want you to impress on you why it is so important that we have to do it. And the zero marketing of truth the zero moment of truth is a study that will, I think some of the numbers will be of great interest and make my point. I apologize for the small print. Didn't realize that I had made it quite that small. I wanted to fit on one page. Okay, so a friend of mine who will go nameless, literally, this is a true quote. This just happened about 3 months ago. A friend of mine said, and I've referred to him on the paperwork as the dinosaur. He said, "I'm just not into it. I don't look at websites. I don't text. I'm on a website, but I just don't believe anyone would look there to find me or to find out about what I do." That's what he said. And believe me, my friend the dinosaur, and believe me, there are lots of callers out there and probably lots of dancers out there if they're running their clubs that think, well, I'm just not into it. I don't look at websites. Why would anybody go to the internet and find a website about my square dance club? Would anybody actually do that? Of course they would. So here's a quote from Dina Howell, CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, which is a humongous national advertising agency that deals with big clients. Shoppers today want to explore and think about how products can improve their lives. They do reconnaissance to gain insights they need. They find incredible detail online from every possible source. They browse, dig, explore, dream, and master, and then they're ready to buy with confidence. And what they learn, they share with others. So they're finding out all kinds of information, okay? And where are they finding it? They're finding it on the web. 70% of Americans now say that they look at product reviews before making a purchase. How many of you ever look at product reviews? Maybe you go to Google and you look at the Google reviews, or some of you may be using Yelp. Yelp is one of the kind of the bigger national websites that has reviews. If you watch some television and cable, the last 4 or 5 years, there's been this huge growth of a company called Angie's List. Y'all have heard of Angie's List, right? Okay, well, that's an interesting story because Angie, I guess that's actually her name, Angie is using traditional media, which is where the realm of my real work is, because I'm selling radio, I sell some television, I sell a lot of internet stuff, but I'm using outbound marketing to what we call impulse marketing to get people to know about whatever it is that particular client wants people to know about. So Angie's using television and cable and those types of things to get out there and tell people about her list, and you can bet that she's got a whole lot of digital marketing elements that are out there as well. But What she's marketing is a service where you can do reviews. So now if you want to hire somebody, a plumber, to come in and fix your leaky bathroom sink, there's a good chance you're going to go to Angie's List. So there are services that are out there like that. Okay, 70% of Americans say that they do product reviews before making a purchase. Do you think it's important that if they actually do look for any information on square dancing, that we have positive reviews about our activity? It's important. It's probably logical that we have them, that's what we're getting. I don't think ours is one that if somebody comes to our lessons and has a bad time, they're going to intentionally seek out a place where they can post, "I did not enjoy Mike Hogan's lessons last Thursday." You know, that's just not the nature of our product. But okay, so 79% of consumers say they use a smartphone to help with shopping. Literally, women, it's probably guys too, but literally women sit in the parking lot before they go into the grocery store and they get on their smartphone and they find discount coupons. What's the price for a gallon? I swear to God, my wife does this. What's the price for a gallon of milk at Walmart, because Hy-Vee will match it? And if I just show it on my phone, I get I save 20 cents on it. I swear that's what they do. So you better be there, right? 83% of moms say they do online research after seeing TV commercials for products that interest them. So it's the use of the internet and the use of sharing information has changed the world. There's an old model of marketing that was followed for years. And I'll try and run through this fairly quickly and then turn it over to Chris, because I want her to have plenty of time. And then we'll do lots of Q&A as well. Okay. So the old model was there was 3 levels at which you interact with your customer. And all of those really have to do with your reputation or reviews. How do people think? And the ability to get consumers to essentially do word-of-mouth sharing of their experiences, okay? Which is, we know word of mouth is the best there is. We know that. But that's something that a company only has so much control over. So the 3 were stimulus, which is kind of the stuff that I do for the most part: television, direct mail, radio, newspaper, billboard, cable, those kinds of traditional media advertising. Then they had what they called the first moment of truth, and that's when you go in. I'm going to relate this from the car dealer standpoint. It used to be car dealers put out this huge ad. They'd blitz television. They'd blitz radio. This weekend we're doubling your rebates, and we've got special financing, 0% for 60 months, yada, yada, all those special deals. So they start out by relying on the manufacturer to get you to fall in love with the Ford Taurus, and then the local dealership has all these special deals going on. Just this month, get in here this weekend. That's all stimulus to get people to react. And the first time that you actually had an interchange with that particular product was in the showroom floor. You'd walk into the dealership, and 3 guys would put out their cigarettes and run as fast as they could and figure out which one got to you first to say, "Hi, what can I show you today?" Right? Yeah, y'all have been there. Okay. So your what they call shelf, or that first moment of truth, was when you got to the showroom. So that whole experience of, was the salesperson out front smoking a cigar or a cigarette and had to put it out and crush it with his foot, and he's got on he's the old slick salesman guy, or is he dressed nicely and he opened the door and offered you a cup of coffee and just offered to help you if you want some help? Then the whole process. You know how long it takes to actually buy a car once you show up at the dealer's? It takes a while, right? Right? Takes too long. They're working on all that. But all of that was the experience of what they call shelf, or first moment of truth. Same thing if you go into the grocery store. If you go into the grocery store and you're looking for a product, do you know why the shelves are always full? I mean, it's like, don't they sell anything? Because the shelves are always full. Well, they have to be full. It's critical, because if there's only 2 left on the shelf, you won't buy it. So there's a whole system. You know why the milk's in the back of the grocery store? Because it's the most sold item, and it's all marketing. You've got to come in. Today you come into the store. In many stores you come in and you have to walk all the way down an aisle and around a corner and all the way down another aisle before you get into the opening of the whole store. And everything that they have is their lost leaders in those rows to try and get you, or stuff that they haven't moved and they've marked it down. So you have to look at that kind of stuff. Well, that's all what they call the first moment of truth. You develop an impression and a feel for that. And then the last moment of truth is the experience, the second moment of truth. And that's when you take the Ford Taurus home, and it still has four wheels that touch the ground, but it drives better, nicer, got better gas mileage. Or it doesn't, and it's loud. And, but that experience has a whole lot to do with whether you're going to tell your neighbor about, oh, my God, I just love my new car. I mean, how many of you see somebody else, a friend of yours that just got a new car, and they're close enough friends that you actually know that it's a new car? Don't you always go, how do you like it? Okay, so their experience has a whole lot to do with, I love that new Ford Taurus, or I hate that new Ford Taurus. I can't believe I bought that thing. So that was how that whole system worked. Well, now with the internet, there's a new piece that happens, and that's the research element. We browse, dig, explore, dream, and master. We got to know as much as we possibly can. So the consumer now searches for products online using search engines. They do just a ton of stuff to find out about, to do the research about. In the automotive world, this is one of the stats that I show that I didn't really have to look up, maybe to get it exact. But basically, that when you go to buy a car, you probably you probably don't even think you do this, because I didn't think I did this. When you go to buy a car, the average consumer spends 19 hours on the internet and uses an average of 11 different sources to figure out what car they're going to buy before they ever actually show up at the showroom floor. So if you're a car dealer, you better figure out how to dominate that first moment, or that's what now they're calling the zero moment of truth. And I just bought a used pickup truck for my son to drive, and I didn't spend 19. I probably spent 16 hours at one point or another digging through, looking for used cars, because there's so many sources that are out there. They will do that. Consumer electronics uses 14.8 sources. And the other element is there's a chart here that says the percentage of shoppers that were influenced by that zero moment of truth. If you go on and you look for product reviews and there's lots of bad reviews, you're less likely to buy this. You have to be there. So real quick, so consumers at this point, the way that zero moment of truth is, an example would be consumers search for products online using search engines. A consumer tweets out for product recommendations. Do you know what that means? How many of y'all tweet? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of us. Okay. I'm not going to go into a ton of this. I'll give you 2 other examples about just social media and that connection. Last night, y'all know what a selfie is, right? It's a photo that you take of your phone, and so I took a selfie last night. Just had a few friends around me, and I think there were 4 of us that were in it. And now I'm going to my Facebook app on my i5 smartphone, and I'm looking at my notifications, and I see that Cindy Vanek, Luann Elliott, and 48 other people like my photo. Now, I didn't you're supposed to put a comment and end it with a question. We learned that the other day, right? I didn't post anything. All I did was take a photo. I hit, the post thing for Facebook, and I hit post. That's how simple it was. What I did do this morning before coming to this meeting is I looked at that 48 people that like my post. Should be 32 of them do not square dance. Okay? So I have a lot more friends on Facebook that are square dancers than that aren't. But I have lots of people from media, from places that I've worked over the years. Our kids got through high school. I have lots of friends that were parents of kids that, how you make those connections. So I have lots of people. I have this real life but beyond square dancing and lots of friends from that real life. And all of a sudden I'm using this media and just going, look, here's something I'm doing and I'm having fun. I didn't put much in here, but the majority of the people that actually reacted to it are not square dancers. That's it. They're not square dancers. So I'm starting to make impressions on people, and I think that's an important thing that we do in this example. One more example that I said I would give you is my daughter, who is now 23, is moving out of a home that she's rented with some other girlfriends and moving into an apartment by herself. Decided to sell a table. Who would think to use Facebook to sell something? So she's going to use Craigslist because that's what people use. She decided, maybe some family members or friends or something maybe want it. So she decided to take a picture, post it on Facebook, said, "Hey, I'm going to put this on Craigslist, but I thought if any of my friends or family needed it, I'd rather sell it to you than somebody else. I'll make you a super deal on, $75 or whatever it was." And she thought it would go nowhere. She had 5 people that contacted her immediately that wanted that desk. So it's another great source. I know there's a question up here that Dave has, and we'll get to you in just a second. On the back, real quick pop quiz. I made a couple comments here about websites, and you guys can read that if you like. More stats. By the way, if you don't get the tape or the disc with all of the sessions on here, you should get that. Not only do you get all of the audio from this and lots of sessions that you can't get to, but also most of the handouts are all on there. And I think I got mine in time, just barely under the gun. The thumb drive, the thumb drive in your bag has all this stuff on it. Okay, so quick social media, left column, social media explained. We use this at my office, so it's easy, right? Okay, so let's kind of go through real fast, and let's see if we can name off all these icons. The first one is Twitter, right? So Twitter is a very short message. Hey, I'm eating bacon. The example is bacon. The second one is Facebook, where you post, I like bacon. The third one is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little more business network-ish. I have skills including eating bacon. The fourth one is Flickr. Yeah, Flickr's it's still big, but it's not as big as some of these others. So Flickr is all about photos. So check out my photo of me eating bacon, I guess. YouTube, of course, we know is video. So watch me eat bacon. The little camera there is, what is that? The camera. Instagram, right? Okay. A vintage photo. Then you have the little P in the circle is Pinterest. Any of you guys using Pinterest? I learned a little bit. I know a lot about this stuff, but actually from our presenter at the opening session, I learned a little bit more about that. I really hadn't thought about developing a really cool photo of square dancing and then overlaying a message on it. And you don't have to do anything more than that. You just post it on Pinterest, and a couple things happen. People that follow you on Pinterest will get it automatically, and then people who are just looking for words that might be in that version can find it. That's getting into some of the more technical that I'm not quite as up to speed on, but I'm working on it. All right, so then you have Google Plus. It's kind of Google's own version of a social media thing. How's that going? Do you know?
Slow growth.
Slow growth.
No, still specialized and technical.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, you know what that one is? It is higher. I'm glad you all know it's iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is radio delivered off the internet. If you listen to a radio station, terrestrial or in your car, the program is identical, but the commercial breaks are not, and that's because of FCC regulations and so forth. So, just because you heard, if you're an advertiser and you buy a commercial on the radio, doesn't mean that people are going to hear it through the internet. And listening to digitally delivered radio is huge and growing in amazing statistics. iHeartRadio happens to be owned by Clear Channel Media and Entertainment, which is the company that I work for, and it's the single, which is, and of course I stole this off of our drive at work, so of course we're on it. But it actually is the largest delivery of online audio. And just from not selling you radio ads, but my country music station at home, a 60-second radio ad is about $135 for one ad. Same 60-second radio ad on iHeartRadio for that station, which I did the math, actually delivers about 20% of what the over the air delivers, right? So 20% of $130 is $26, right? Or no, was it? Did I say 20%? Yeah. So $26. Okay, a 60-second ad on the audio stream is $7. Pretty good value, right? Pretty good value. Smaller number of people, but it's, if you ever thought about using radio and we don't have much money, think about stations that and every station offers audio stream delivery. Done with that. Sorry. What's the V? It's Vine. Okay, so you know about that. Last three. You have Tumblr, which is it's a blogging related site, microblogging. Then you have Blogger, which, I guess that would be a blogging site too, right? And the last one there is Yelp, and Yelp is probably one of the highest used for product reviews. Okay, so I hope I've impressed on you the need for us to really open our eyes and start getting into the technology, and giving you a little overview of all of that. And I know I had one question from Dave. I don't know if I've gone on by it, but if we'll take a few questions and then we'll get to Chris. Do tell us on the microphone who you are, where you're from, and then ask us your question. And I may defer answers to other experts in the room. We'll see. And there are lots of you that's true in the room. Go ahead, Dave.
Dave Brown, Merced, California. And I wrote it down. The question, what would be the question mark phrase you would use on that Facebook
selfie? On my Facebook post that I did?
Just as an example.
Okay, well, let me make this up, because that's what I would have had to have done, was just make it up, you know. So I had the picture, and I would have probably put on there something like, having a great time with all my friends in Reno, Nevada. Doesn't this look like fun? And I probably would have somewhere in there referenced at the CALLERLAB Square Dance Caller Convention. So I got Square Dance in there. I got Caller in there. By the way, y'all know how to use hashtags? Okay. If I want somebody who's on Facebook and just for some reason happened to search for Square Dance, if I put the hashtag, which is the pound symbol, if I put having a great time with all my friends in Reno at the CALLERLAB, and then I want Square Dance to be what I find, I just hashtag Square Dance without any space, hashtag Square Dance Caller Convention, and anybody that goes on to Facebook and searches for Square Dance for whatever reason, because of the hashtag, they get it. That's how they find each other. So you've probably heard lots of people hashtag, and go, well, what is that? Well, for most of them, what that is, it's a search mechanism that says, because most of these social sites, if I post something on Facebook, if you're not my friend on Facebook, you don't get it automatically. You have to find it. If you're my friend on Facebook, this is powerful. I post a picture, and all my friends that aren't square dancing get my picture because they're my friends. So you got to be careful. This is an interchange. You don't want to abuse it. You don't want to go on every day and post some kind of a sales pitch about square dancing. What will happen is they'll get tired of you and they will unfriend you. Okay? So it has to be a social interchange. You can't abuse it. But if you're passionate about the activity, you just love it, just tell people, wow, I'm having such a great time, I'm headed to this thing. Or actually, you should tell them that when you get back so they don't, your friends that want to rob you don't know that you're out of town, I guess. But so you want to take advantage of that. But that's probably, Dave, what I would have done is I would have ended it with something like, doesn't this look like a lot of fun? And people might have come back and said, I don't know, what are you doing? Or, usually it's something nice like, and I got 8 or 10 comments as well where people actually posted a comment. Looks like you're having a great time. Who are your friends? Those kinds of things. And, as soon as they post a comment, pretty soon it's other friends see it, it spirals. Same thing with, we were talking about video, the production of video. The most shared stuff is videos and photos, right? We learned that the other day. I kind of knew that already, but I'm glad that he talked about that. Create a short video, something that's kind of fun and interesting that shows us in a good way, or something about you, because your friends want to know about you. A short video, post it on your Facebook. Well, you stay on Facebook. Post it on your Facebook, and what happens is, especially if you tag it with some, I'd love it if you guys would share this. This is such a fun video. Doesn't this look like a great time? And you've said, mind sharing it? Not all of them will, but as soon as one does. I think the average number of Facebook friends is something a little under 500, probably 3, 4. I don't know the exact number. I have a few more than that because it's amazing how square dancers become your friends. So I've got about 1,100 Facebook friends. Okay, 11, 12, somewhere in that neck of the woods. So if I post something, I may only get 5 of them to repost it. But if 5 of them repost it and each has 400 friends, I just hit 2,000 people with my video. And you can bet the stats of those 2,000 who are the percentage that don't square dance is real high. Right? So that's examples. Okay? Scott?
Yeah, I was going to ask, Scott Byers, Sacramento, California. I was going to ask what opinions are of like Shoutcast, creating a Shoutcast server and creating your own radio station using Shoutcast and broadcasting that. Does anybody have any opinions on that? I've done it before and created that.
I have an opinion on that. It's terrible. I wouldn't do it. I would just turn into iHeartRadio. That's what I'd do. Actually, I really don't have very little knowledge about that. Do you, Chris?
I have very little knowledge about that. I would probably, instead of doing that, which I don't know people who do that, why not create it as a podcast, put it out on iTunes, and then it would be there instead of being a real-time streaming kind of thing. It would be there where people could find it whenever they are looking for it. Go ahead.
Can I just, this is Dottie Welch from Nova Scotia, can I just ask you to repeat your description of this hashtag and exactly how that works?
Sure. It does work on Facebook now. Yeah, it does work on Facebook. Okay, I'll re-explain hashtag. And I'm sort of the last-minute guy that they called to help fill this in. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert at this. But essentially, the way that a hashtag works is, I think of it like computer programming. As soon as you start whatever word you want someone to find you with. So if someone goes into if they're in Twitter, which is the more common one for hashtag, but it actually does interface now with Facebook. If you want someone who isn't necessarily your friend or isn't necessarily looking for, doesn't know you, so they're not going to find it, and you have something that if someone might be looking for the term dancing. Let's use the term dancing, because we know they don't really look for square dancing for the most part. But if somebody's looking for something about dancing, if you take the word dancing and you just start it by putting the hashtag, which is the pound sign, right in front of the word, no spaces, so pound sign dancing, in your description or in your little 2-sentence about what it is that you're posting, whether it's just a post or if it's a post with a photo or a post with a video, if you use that hashtag, just one. And by the way, if you do that hashtag, and if you have if you have a website that has lots of great information, you can hashtag at http://www.mywebsite, and as soon as somebody looks up dancing, because of the hashtag, you're on the list. Now, maybe they look at yours and they go, I don't want to talk about square dancing. But some you don't know. That's how you can get stuff to kind of go viral. So they'll find that post about dancing, and your post has two things. It has has three things. It has a comment, kind of your opinion about it, put it in a real nice way. It has a website so that if they are interested, and it comes in as a live link, so as soon as they get it, they just click on it and go right to your site and learn a whole lot more about you if they want to do that. And you end it with we figured out you have to end it with a question because more people are likely to read it, pass it on. So if you, just one pound sign. Now you can have, and I wouldn't go crazy with it, but you can have multiple hashtags in the same sentence. So you could have 6 or 8 different words that you want people to be able to search for and start everything with a hashtag.
Yeah, you mentioned iTunes. Now, I don't use Apple products, so when I think about using iTunes, a lot of times I've tried to work with iTunes and the products, and it reacts like a virus on a lot of my stuff. In other words, it affects the hardware and slows my systems down. So I don't use iTunes. I stay away from iTunes. I stay away from Apple products. So I personal opinion, I don't want to spend the money, and I like to get into the machine, and I can't do that with an Apple product.
Okay,
I know that.
Knows
I
that.
understand that.
It's obvious. But
yes.
I was talking more generically about podcasts, and as my understanding is that iTunes is kind of the major place that people go for podcasts, but there are certainly other places that people look. So most people who do podcasts put their stuff up on different sites. And so you're not limited to iTunes. If I were doing a podcast, and there is a square how many people know that there's a square dancing podcast? It went for a little while. It's not active right now, but they went through 20 some odd episodes of it. It was Dale Hodge, and caller out of Washington D.C. area, and it was Jarvis. It was Barb Jarvis. And they interviewed square dance callers and recorded the interviews and put them up as a podcast. And a podcast is like, I think that Patrick talked about it, but it's an audio recording that is then put up on the web and is syndicated through an RSS-like feed, which Patrick also talked about, where people can subscribe to it so that every time there's a new episode, it comes directly to you, and you can then transfer it to your MP3 player. I won't say iPod because we're not being Apple-centric, but your MP3 player, and play it where you choose to play it. So I listen to them in the car. Dave, did you have a question?
By the way, for the recording, it's Chris Jensen just taking over the microphone.
Yes, we didn't get a chance to give a nice hand to Chris Jensen.
A little more distinction on the hashtag.
Yeah.
I know in programming that what we call a string is several words, in between quote marks. Now, hashtag would be just the one word. So if you wanted square dancing, you take the hashtag square, hashtag
No,
dancing.
you wouldn't do it that way. You would do hashtag square dancing, all one phrase. No space.
Yeah, no space. You got to get rid of the space.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And hashtags are, they are a way of telling the computer and the services that these are on that this is an important word that it should index, basically, and pay attention to. So, for example, in a way that hashtags really, and Twitter really became a major thing, was at the South by Southwest conference several years ago. People were there, and that used to be a music conference, but now it's a music and technology social media conference. And Twitter was new, but all the hip tech people who were there were using it. And so they just started hashtagging all of their comments, all of their tweets with hashtag SXSW. And so what that meant is that with your Twitter software, then people would have a stream going of everything that was tagged with SXSW. So they were having real-time conversations, basically, at the conference using that hashtag. And it became a thing, and more people got on Twitter at that point. Twitter was starting out. The way that would work here, for example, if we were all really social media types and tweeting all the time, is that we would be sitting here, and while you're listening to us, you would be on your smartphone, tweeting out. Chris Jensen is saying stupid things right now. It's time to leave. I wish I were having coffee. And hashtag CALLERLAB, and then other people would be tweeting back at you from other rooms saying, oh, well, you should come down here. Betsy Gatta's doing a great presentation. That's how they interact. Claudia has a question.
This is Claudia Littlefair from Strathmore, Alberta. I'm curious. You say you Twitter. So do you Twitter about square dancing, or what would an example be?
I said I was on Twitter.
Oh.
I actually use it to follow other people more than tweet myself. But I'm going to, I learn from these things too, and I learned from Patrick. And
so what would an example be
of a tweet
that you might do? Yeah,
that I might do. I might very well do a tweet that here I am at hashtag CallerLab. Just did a presentation on social media. I had a great time, or people asked really interesting questions, or I should end it with a question probably. But I don't have a lot of followers. On Twitter, you're measured by your followers, and the more you tweet, the more you would be likely to get followers. And the more you follow, the more you would be likely to get followers. There are square dance people on Twitter, and I follow everyone that I find, and they usually follow me back. So we're building slowly a network of people on Twitter, so it will become more useful in the future. Yeah. Right. Okay. Mike also said Pinterest also, and obviously Facebook also. So was there another?
Yeah, my name is Connie Laudeman from Las Vegas. I'm never been on Twitter. So is it you log in like you do on Facebook?
Yes, you create a username, an account.
Okay, and then how do you, for instance, hashtag CallerLab, how would you find, how would you even know what's out there?
You probably wouldn't know it was out there unless a friend of yours did a tweet that used it, and then you would know it was there, or you just try things. I just searched on hashtag square dance, and a lot of stuff came up. Also stuff related to Eminem, but oh well.
Also, if when I think about this, I think about it not as a communication tool with all my friends, and that's usually what it ends up being, because you either follow somebody or they follow you. I have lots of friends again that aren't square dancers that might follow me on Twitter, but the hashtag thing would be maybe not CALLERLAB, because if you don't know that term, you're not going to search that term. But you might put a post that says, great time. I'm having a great time at the CALLERLAB convention. So you do hashtag GREATTIME without a space. I guarantee you there are thousands and thousands of people that are gonna search great time. Now, I don't know what they're looking for, right? We don't know. But they're going to find your post as one of those options they have available to look into. So the CALLERLAB is, using the term CALLERLAB is probably not going to get much search results. But if you do use other terms that are more common that people would search, dancing, fun, healthy, those kinds of things, the things that we used to talk about as benefits of our activity, then lots of folks who know nothing about square dancing are going to find it.
Okay, another example of the hashtag usage is Mike had, on his handout, talked about the social media in terms of bacon. On my handout, I used donuts. I don't know what that says about one or the other of us, our different sources.
He's in Omaha. They have pigs.
I wasn't going to say anything about Omaha, but... All right, so Twitter, what we did was I'm eating a hashtag donut, so that shows that, they made donut as the major topic of that comment, and people searching for donut would find it. Other than that, most of these are the same. It's obviously the same meme, and got moved around, passed around. All right, so I was going to... I'm sorry.
Peggy Pingo from Denver. I just wanted to do one other thing with the hashtags. This morning I was talking to a couple of the folks from the Northwest, and they have a group of kids that have graduated out of the teen festival, but they still want to get together and dance. And so they had a Facebook page that was, I think, Diamond Dancers. And they post onto there that says, I'm going to go to so-and-so's dance on Saturday, and then the other kids can find them and they can go together to a particular dance. But that would be another use of your hashtags on Twitter, is if they were all on Twitter, they can send that out and use a hashtag Diamond Dancers and just do the same thing. So it would accomplish the same thing as having that Facebook page. You added them in as a group in your Facebook page, and when you send a message to that, so you can subscribe to that. You can ask to follow that hashtag. If anything comes up that says that hashtag, then you're going to get that message. Does that make sense? So it would be another use of that hashtag would accomplish the same thing as and it might make more sense about how that relationship happens the same way you would do it out of a Facebook group.
Okay, so the approach that I was looking at first was we're using tech marketing. What are we using it for? And mostly what we've been talking about is how to reach out to non-square dancers to get them into square dancing. But I see it as you could also use it for other purposes. So I listed some goals or purposes for your marketing. What are you using it for? And so number one is using square dancers to non-dancers, either to get them interested in square dancing, to get them to publicize a particular event, like your first night of classes or a party night or something to get people in dancing. Yourself to non-dancers. Okay, so what if you want to start a business or want to get more one-night party dances? That would be another reason for using the internet and social media. Yourself to dancers. Okay, how about wanting to raise your profile among all square dancers, so maybe you'll get booked for a weekend or something like that. If you don't have, and I'm very guilty of this, but if you don't have an up-to-date website, people, as Mike said, they do their 0 moment of marketing. They look for you. If I were going to hire Mike or thinking about hiring Mike for a weekend, I would Google him and see what shows up if I hadn't necessarily heard him call. But I have, so I'd hire him in a moment. But people not only are looking for entertainment and square dancing as possibly an entertainment form, but you do it for your own research. If you're traveling, you Google a club, or you Google an area. I'll type in Square Dance Albuquerque to see what groups are there that I could come and dance with. So it's more than just reaching out to non-dancers. It's reaching out to ourselves and marketing in our group, which is why I used CALLERLAB as a hashtag, because that would be an example of networking among ourselves and communicating among ourselves. And then the other thing might be a square dance event to square dancers. So how is the National Square Dance Convention promoting itself? How is your local weekend promoting itself to dancers across the country? And more, the internet is going to be part of that. All right, so, and then I also talked about using it to strengthen your existing groups, and this is networking in your group. So, how many of you have an email group for your club so that you can communicate information from your club to your dancers? How many of you have a Facebook page for your club just to keep your club people up to date on what's happening? How many of you, maybe have a forum or something where everybody in your club can post and communicate back and forth? So an email list could be one-to-many. You could just broadcast, or you could have an email list where people can also send back email and it can develop into a whole conversation. And so your club members can talk amongst themselves even when they're not at the club. Okay, another use of technology to build our activity or to help our activity is, how many of you know about taminations? Okay, almost everybody. It's a great resource just to give your dancers when your dancers are learning, and maybe not the first night because it would be intimidating, but after they're into it, say, hey, if you want to check out some calls and look at them on your own, go here and take a look at the taminations, and you can watch the checkers move through the calls. I think it's great. People have really liked it in our club. They like looking at it.
I might mention that one of my clubs, the Singles and Pairs in Santa Rosa, I've set up a website for our classes. Every week after the class is over, I post the calls that we covered that week and link each call to its tamination, so they just click on the name of the call and they can see it.
Wow, a new teaching technique.
Yeah, actually I do that for my challenge class too. It's
Lawrence Johnstone, by the way.
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere, Ukiah, California.
Okay, so let's talk about, then they were touting me as the big expert, and I'm not. I'm just an amateur person who years and years ago got into the internet, and I actually wrote my own blog software at some point. And then I had to take it down because it got so badly hacked after people became much more sophisticated at that. So I went to using an open source blogging platform. Does that sound like Greek to you? Okay. I did. I actually, more than 10 years ago, I was blogging square dancing. And then other people started doing it, and I got out of the habit. I was doing it kind of for my own purposes, but yes, because I would blog on the relationship between square dancing and other things and just stuff that I found. I did get people who were searching on other things, and they would find stuff about square dancing, whether it resulted in anything, because I wasn't really I was promoting square dancing, but not blatantly. I was just writing about stuff that interested me. And so you can go look at it if you want. It's old, and the site is currently running on a WordPress blog, and for some unknown reason, I may talk to Dave, it's running really slowly. So, I'm just looking at that. I had to it's too technical. Never mind. So that's how I got into it, was through starting a blog. Back when blogging wasn't a common term, I got into it and blogged. So the questions were about my sort of blogging in the past, for the tape. So, yeah, she wanted to know how to find my blog. How to find my blog. It's squares.com. That shows how old it was. It was sort of cool to add Z's to things back then. So I got the domain name squares.com. Beg your pardon? Well, at the time, no, it was girls with a Z and various things. Yes.
Becky Jaworski. I'm from Chicago. This is all brand new. I mean, I have a Facebook, but I hardly ever use it because I hear that, you got to be careful about the security and all that kind of stuff. So I look at it to see what comes on. And my son has a Facebook, and he's got all kinds of stuff. So I go on and I see he's got this and that and all kinds of things, and other people are on there. And so I'd like to use it for our square dancing, but how do you set one up for your club?
Okay, Facebook has different categories of pages, and you can have a personal page, and you can also just go in and set up a page, and I think they call them pages now, a page for your club. And you just are, as a Facebook user, you have an account, and from that account, you are able to create pages.
Okay.
And you can create a page for your Square Dance Club.
Okay.
And then if you get a certain number of likes, you are able to change the URL to be something more comprehensible than just a bunch of numbers. So that, who knows what a URL is?
I don't know.
Okay.
What is that?
The URL is the web address. So, for example, my URL for my blog is http://squares.com. And your URL for your Facebook group page would be www.facebook.com/some number when you just set it up. And your goal would be to change that to facebook.com/your club name.
Oh, does it cost you anything?
No, but you just need a certain number of likes on it to do that.
Oh.
So, but you can set one up, and you can still just send the link out, and as long as you have the link correct, people can just click on it, and they never need to know about all those numbers and stuff.
Okay.
They don't need to type it in. Yes.
What is Taminations? Sorry.
No, that's a good question. Taminations is a website where a guy in Northern California, has done the work of animating every Square Dance call through C2. I think he goes through C3A, and he's working on C3B. So all of the calls are animated, and he has a very nice interface. It's a web app, and it also runs on a smartphone. And you can just go in and pick a call and watch little checkers move through the call and get the CALLERLAB definition of it.
I don't know a lot about all this, even the cell phone. I have an old cell phone, 2005. It has an antenna on it, so I don't text. Well, for one thing, when they started to text, I said, "Why would you text it? We got away from typing, and it takes a lot longer too." And so I never did. Now I just found out how to read text, so now I can read text that people send to me. Before, I was just looking at it, I said, well, I don't know how to read this stuff. But I finally found out. So I can read a text, but I don't know how to send a text. And what's an app?
And what's an app?
Yes, okay, I know it means application, but how do you use that?
Okay, well, first of all, Becky, you have to get a smartphone.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise,
fine.
until you, or tablet.
Okay, so I can't use it on mine.
Right.
Okay.
But the comment I wanted to make is we are all at different levels of embracing all of this new technology. And believe me, in our Square Dance world, there's a bunch, and potentially a majority of our square dance participants that never will embrace this technology. They won't. And that's okay. But for those of us that do, I have no reason at all that in my mind why I'm on Twitter, except that I have to talk to clients about it. So, and Pinterest is even worse in my world. But I have to talk to clients about it in my real world, so I have to get on this stuff. And I have to learn more about it. And my eyes have really been opened more this last year than ever about the power of all of this. I wanted to make a comment on the Facebook thing and a marketing committee project that we're working on. I'm chairman of the marketing committee. We're doing a rewrite of a marketing plan that we wrote in 2005 that's out there, by the way, on the ARTS website if you want to look at that. But we're doing a rewrite that's going to be dramatically more comprehensive and have a lot more internet, computer-based technology in it. So part of that is going to be sort of an educational piece so that if we follow it through to what I'd like it to be, you can go to that, you can flip to the chapter about Facebook, and it'll give you step-by-step instructions about how to set up your Facebook page. Okay? So a lot of people they just don't know how. I don't know how. That's in a lot of these things. That's why I have other people that have those kinds of expertise on my marketing committee. I'm just sort of herding the cats, right? You take this, you take that, you take that. Let's all write about and explain what we know. There's a lot more to that marketing plan than just a how-to booklet. I mean, there's going to be pieces that we want to we CALLERLAB are going to do some of those things. The arts is going to do some of those things. And on a local level, we have to have the local clubs and local dance organizations doing some of those things. So we're working on that. I wanted to give you an example about a Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, I would love it if you would look up Square Dance Omaha and like our page. We just launched it, and we've got a lot more creating and developing to do with it. But we have a marketing group that's made up of callers and dancers in the Omaha area that I also chair because I can't say no. And we created a Facebook page now, and we have I think we have just shy of 300 likes of our page. Some of that, even that technology or that comment may be foreign to some of you. But if you like my page, then anytime that we post anything on my page, it shows up on your timeline. So people go on and they check out their timeline. That's where they hear they read about everything else that all of their friends are doing. If they like my page, what I post will show up on their timeline. And of that, I said I had, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 Facebook friends. I didn't send it out to anybody. You build it, and then you ask people to like it. And so I sent it out, and I got mostly non-dancers to like my page. So every time I post something, they automatically get a feed about square dancing, and they don't square dance. Question?
Hi, Ron Dean from Lake Ridge, Virginia. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, I work as a federal government contractor, and so for a lot of us, because we have security clearances, we're not allowed to have Facebook or Twitter or any of those kinds of things. So it does make you have to have somebody else in your club who is savvy with that kind of stuff to kind of take that role. The other thing is, and someone else brought it up, is the security of those sites. You got to really be careful with what you post because a lot of that stuff, even today, we have found is not as secure as we would like it to be. So be careful with that. And the other thing is that stuff can get awful time consuming. I mean, you could spend all day, reading tweets and responding to tweets and doing all that kind of stuff. And so, how do you juggle the time it takes to do, to send it out, but then to respond to it, when you've got to do other things like maybe real work?
Well, you just have to juggle your time and figure out how much time you can spend on it. One thing I'd like to say about Facebook is it's a little bit of an exaggeration to say that everything that you post on your page gets put onto all of your friends' pages, timelines. It doesn't. Facebook has algorithms where they're deciding who sees what. And everything that I post does not always show up on all of my friends' feeds. You know, it's unclear how they do it. And what they're really trying to do is sell advertising. So they would like you to pay to promote your page. And it's not very expensive. And as Patrick talked about yesterday, it might be smart to pay a little bit to promote a Square Dance Clubs or Square Dance Lessons page through Facebook, because you can do it through your own networking, but it's not going to hit everybody.
My name is Claudia from Strathmore. I just was thinking, with all this article writing, another source is online newspapers. A lot of times the newspapers online will publish your articles and all your photographs that you send in. And if you send articles in on a regular basis, they all get posted online, and maybe once or twice they might make a shorter article with one of your pictures in a hard copy. And one group did do this. From June to September, she wrote 8 online articles. 3 of them got published in a briefer form, and they had 30 people come out to their Square Dance evening.
I think that's excellent. I think that you use whatever promotional things you can find online. For example, if you're starting Square Dance lessons, you should post to every online calendar that you can find. And there are undoubtedly dozens of them in your areas. And why not? It doesn't cost anything except time. But if you can find somebody to do that, to go through and find all of the calendars and post on them that you're having lessons, why not? It gets the word out.
Most of those tactics are going to be in the marketing plan that we're developing. Claudia, specifically, that story about writing articles and getting articles published is one of the tactics that I've outlined that we're going to add to that. But I would like to share that success story with me in more detail, and the reason is I'd like to be able to share it with everybody else. Part of that marketing plan includes case studies, because if we want people to do something, we really need to go, here's an example of someone who did this particular thing, and they got, how many did you say, 30? 30 people. And they did this one item, and they got, and by the way, here's how to do it.
She spent hours writing the article.
And they got 30 people to their class.
And it was just like blogging.
Yeah. And maybe she would share those. Maybe she'd even share what those articles were, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Exactly.
Kay Gonzalez, Clovis, California. Another idea for some free advertising. I listen to the radio on the way to work. I'm sure a lot of us do. DJs were talking one day about, the girl was saying something about being single and 30 and where do you meet people. And so I called in just on a whim. And I didn't actually get through to talk to the DJs, but I did leave a message about try square dancing. I listened to the radio 4 or 5 nights later. Those DJs were talking about, somebody called in about square dancing. I've never thought about doing that. So that conversation went on for a few days just because I made a phone call and left a message. I didn't even talk to anybody.
Right now people aren't talking about square dancing because people aren't talking about square dancing. Here's an example where you talked about it, and it got some coverage.
Jim Taylor, Littleton, Colorado. I'd like to emphasize that the marketing plan that Mike's working on in conjunction with the arts rebranding efforts, the whole point of this is to get all this information to the clubs, and all this information we've been talking about with the Facebook and Twitter and the social media. It is obvious from the comments and the information that we've heard today and yesterday that we're not going to get anywhere without getting on board with this. And all of us need to take this back to our clubs and find ways to get these people going and doing these things. Thank you.
Other questions? We've got about 5 minutes. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, just a comment. I mean, from what he's saying, if each one of us just does one little tick out of this, I'm sure that we can promote way more than we think we can. And then if each one of us might take on a little extra thing, like maybe learn Twitter and just get involved in that, I think, and all of us did that to some extent, I can't imagine how viral that can actually be.
And remember, we're dealing with computers, so there's a lot of automation that one can do. For example, you can set up so that every Facebook post you make also gets put on Twitter, and vice versa, so that you post once or write once and it gets posted in different places. Yes, Scott?
Scott Bayer, Sacramento, California. It's kind of funny, and it's kind of sad at the same time, but all of my friends that I have are square dancers. I have no friends that are outside of square dancing. How do I get friends that are not square dancers? I'm amazed that you've got friends that are not square dancers.
I have friends who are also folk dancers and such, so non-square dancing dancers.
Actually, to address that, all the friends that you have probably have non-square dancing friends. And so by you communicating just with them, and then they post, you get that the effect he was talking about. 5 + 5 + 5 that get out there.
1,500 friends on Facebook, and every single one is a square dancer.
So what I say is, don't worry about it. I think it will still go viral. So, and then to mention the WordPress thing, there are what they call plugins or little programlets that go into WordPress. And there are, if you post on your WordPress blog,
it will get posted too.
It will post everything that you tell it to.
Right.
So let me just say that, Andy Shore, now again from California. Before you jump in and create a Facebook page for your club or for your own calling business, do a little bit of research, look at other groups. Look at their content. Is it compelling? You say, what are they posting that would make me want to go to that class? What are they, is this valuable information? Is it current? Try to figure out what it is that you want to communicate, because just kind of starting up there and not having anything to post is almost going to be worse than not having anything at all. Yes, Scott, remember the old tell two friends and they'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends? If you post compelling content that your friends like, their friends will see it. They will share it, that kind of stuff. And I happened to do a search on my smartphone on Pinterest, which I'm not a user of, for square dancing. And the low-hanging fruit that's going to capture are women into sewing. You search for square dance on Pinterest, you get pictures of vintage square dance clothing, stuff for sale, patterns, that kind of stuff. That may be a great community that we want to reach out to, is women with sewing rooms, but it may not be worth the effort either.
Yeah. And to build on what Andy said about keeping your content up to date, if you have a website or a blog, one of the reasons for doing a blog rather than just a static website is it will encourage you to update it frequently. And the more you update, the higher your page gets ranked in search engines. We haven't talked at all about search engine optimization, and I don't really believe in doing special things for that, but having good keywords in your page description and keeping your content changing over time and up to date makes a big difference in how you come up on a search engine.
Somebody send me a friend request.
We've come to the end of our period. Thank you to all of you for participating. And let's have a nice hand for our panelists, Mike Hogan and Chris Jensen. Have a great convention, everybody.